Martine. Welcome to my vlog for the senior studio project that I'm doing. This is literally my final grade in my class, so woo, a little stressful, but we can do this. So, in this project, there will be me creating a dish based off of what I learned from my mom and grandma about Egyptian food. And so yeah, that's hard because Egyptian food is so complicated and it's hard to track down how it started and how it started developing over time based off of certain invasions. My essay was actually about that, and I thought I could track it down, but it is a whole mess. Egypt was taken over by so many people. It's ridiculous, and nobody kept track of how food developed over time. So that is probably a PhD type of project, and I decided to do it for a senior studio class. But I did learn a little bit about the food in ancient Egypt. So I will tell you a little bit of history about that in just a second. So I have my notebook that I put research into it, so that'll help me tell you about the origin and history. So the first thing that is super important to Egyptian culture is bread. Bread is the main thing that I learned from the research. It was the staple crop, it was what was being sold during ancient Egyptian times, and till now that bread is the same. Bread is a huge part of Egyptian food. It is eaten with everything. Everything we eat, there is bread. In some sort of way. Unless it's a soup, obviously, but some soups we use bread. Like with molokhia, you can dip your bread in the soup and eat it. So yeah, that is one of the big things that was part of ancient Egyptian culture, and it's still a part of my Egyptian culture today. I remember when I was little, when my grandma took me to go get bread, which was in Egypt. I was in Egypt for about 8 years, so I was maybe 5 or 6, I don't remember, but when we got the bread, there was this huge, like, metal oven, which was, or clay oven, I'm not sure, but it was huge. It was like, it took over pretty much the entire store that was selling it, and people stood in the longest lines to just get bread. But this bread tasted so good. It was just, I don't even know, it was just so good. I'm pretty sure it was a clay oven with a metal, like, top of it, like, not an oven, but like, do you know those pizza ovens? Something like that. So there are two types of bread in Egypt, and it's aish beledi wa aish shammi. So it's, I don't know how to say it in English, but aish beledi means country bread. Aish shammi just means sunny bread, which is, or like, bread put in the sun, so it's the darker bread. So yeah, that is pretty much all I know about that. So one funny thing about the bread in ancient Egyptian times that differs from bread now is that they used sand to grind the wheat, and that didn't turn out well because they'd have sand in their bread and it showed up on the ancient Egyptians' mouths, like their teeth. It would just break down their teeth to like pretty bad. So that's good, that's still not a thing, so that's great. So the second thing that I would like to talk about is bread beer, which they had consumed in ancient Egypt like constantly. They drank it like it was water because the water was not safe to drink. That's what they would drink. Bread beer was made of bread that had a lot more yeast in it, so they would crumble it up and put it in water, and it would create yeast cultures and it would be left to ferment naturally. This beer would become frothy and thick, so it was not consumed for like normal thing like it's a beer. It was not alcoholic, it was barely alcoholic, it had a lot of nutrients in it, so the ancient Egyptians drank it like constantly. Bread beer also had date water, which is a sweet fruit that is grown in Egypt and in other areas, but it had that in it, so I guess it made it sweeter. The third thing that I would like to talk about is the agriculture and the Nile River. So the Nile River was the only source area for growing crops, and the crops would be like beans, watermelon, grains, onions, leeks, dates, lentils, lettuce, radish, turnip, and fig. Oh, and apple and pomegranate. There's also cucumber and peas that would be grown in the Nile River area. There's also a lot of other crops, but That's all I have from my research from ancient times, obviously. So another thing with the Nile River had fish in it, but in ancient Egyptian times, fish were sort of respected too much to eat, but they were eaten occasionally, hunted and eaten occasionally. So a way that the ancient Egyptians would preserve the fish meat, they would put it in salt, and we still do that today. So it is called fisikh, and it is very, very salty, and it pretty much the more it ages, the better it tastes. Also, Russians eat that too, which is super surprising. I didn't know that. My mom told me about it. I was like, whoa. But yeah, it's called fisikh. So fish would be either dried or salted. So yeah. Another source of meat, they would eat pigeons. They would pigeons, duck, and geese, and all sorts of birds. But meat like from a cow or a pig was very rare to eat in Egypt because it was very expensive and not common. So they only ate meat during religious ceremonies or rituals or celebrations. So in modern Egyptian culture, we eat all sorts of meats. We eat all the time. We eat all the time. We do pretty much eat, like, live to eat. So, but for me, it's different because I fast 3/4 of the year for my church, my religion. I'm Coptic Orthodox Christian, so it's different for each person in Egypt because there are Catholics in Egypt, there are Muslims in Egypt. So each of us eat differently throughout the year. So it's a normal thing for people to eat all sorts of types of food. It's not like preventative if you're poor anymore, but it is now because the economy is really bad and it costs a lot of money in Egypt to eat those types of food. The fourth thing I would talk about is how the Egyptians prepared their foods and if there's any recipes left. And there aren't any recipes to this day other than probably fisikh, which is, I don't know how it's still alive, but it's still a thing. The only thing that is known about Egyptian food is based off of the utensils, because in the tombs they had those in there. So the food was either boiled, cooked, roasted, grilled, or stewed. So it's pretty normal, and it actually relates a lot to Egyptian culture because, modern Egyptian culture, because we do that also. I will show you all the things that deal with that. I will try to. But there's obviously not enough time to film like 1,000 different recipes, but we do use these methods because it's normal. Other than that, I'm going to read off a list of different seasonings that are mainly used in ancient Egyptian culture, and I'm going to see if it connects to modern Egyptian culture. So it says that they used cumin, coriander, cinnamon, salt, pepper, sesame seeds, dill, and fern. We don't use sesame seeds that much, which I don't know how they use sesame seeds. I think they used it in their breads. They had an immense amount of bread types. They were the best at it at the time. And they had like bread that was so similar to the most popular breads that we have now. It's crazy. So it's pretty cool. Hi, so I'm on my way to my grandma's house so we can cook kawera, which is cow legs, right? Is it the cow's legs?
Yes.
Yeah, my dad's in here. So I'm going to go hang out with my grandma and make some cow legs, which sounds disgusting, but it's actually really good. One of them is just plain, and the other that we're making is with tomato soup, sort of. And it's really good, surprisingly. It's really fatty and gamey, but it's really good. It's less gamey than you think it is. It's just like fatty and hearty. So yeah, we'll see you there. Alright, so we're making Egyptian coffee or Turkish coffee, and I'll show you how to make it. It's not a food, but it's still part of the culture. It's a big part of the culture, so I'll just show you that. Okay, so the next thing we're making is baba ganoush, which is there's other people who say it with like baba ganoush, but it's baba ganoush in the Alexandrian accent because we're from the northern part of Egypt. So, quickly before my camera runs out, I'll show you what we have so far. It's kind of like a salad, but not really. Like, what is...
With tahina.
Like with tahina, which is tahini. Oh, anyway, with spices. Okay, look. so far we put it in the oven, so it's hard on the outside like this. On the inside, it's super soft, so it can be turned into that salad. Okay, so things that I've realized so far from cooking with my grandma and my mom is that cumin is a really big thing in Egyptian food. So is salt and pepper, and what else? Garlic, vinegar, onions. So far I think that's it, but that's mainly the things that they use in food, but cumin is used a lot. Like, so much. I will link a video, I will add a piece of a clip that I found where this guy literally has a restaurant in Egypt where he has like a vat of it.
Egyptians can't eat without spices. Cumin definitely is one of the really important spices that we use every day.
So yeah, I will see you in a little bit with another dish that we'll be making. And then at some point, I'll make my own dish. So yeah, that's the main thing about this vlog. So yeah. So the next thing we're making is goulash, which is, it's called phyllo dough. We put meat in between the dough. Pretty much that's what it is. So here it is, the goulash and kofta. We already ate most of it. So yeah. Hello, so today we're making macaroni bechamel, which is macaroni and ground beef and bechamel. It's just like a cream, sort of. Is it cream? Like, it's creamy, so like, yeah, let's just go and make it. So this is the ground beef with onion and salt and pepper, and it's gonna be like layered between the macaroni, which is macaroni, and the bechamel. Hi, so it's time to make my own dish, and I've thought of an idea, actually two ideas. So we're technically making two dishes today, but they're kind of the same, but in different ways. So what I'm gonna do for the first dish is cut bell peppers in half and put them in a pan and stuff them with cooked ground beef, the Egyptian way, and put bechamel over it, which is that creamy sort of gravy that we use in the macaroni bechamel. Oh yeah, that's one of the ideas. The second one is similar. I'm gonna get portobello mushrooms and stuff them with ground beef and put bechamel over them in a different pan. So I have about 12 of these. I don't know if people like mushrooms, but my family does. So we usually like use it in a lot of stuff, but it doesn't matter. I'm just gonna cook these probably for my family. I don't know if I'm gonna bring them to school because I don't know if it's gonna turn out good or not. I don't know if this is gonna turn out good at all, but the idea sounds like it's gonna taste good. So you're just gonna follow me along doing that. I will see you in a little bit in my process. Okay, so the bechamel is done and I've stuffed the stuff. I've stuffed the bell peppers and the mushrooms. Now it's time to put them in the oven. So I'm putting it on 350 for about an hour and then we'll be back with the finished product. Okay, so everything is ready and my parents and my grandma tried it and they said it was really good and I tried it and I think it's pretty good. So here it is, the final product. So there is the bell peppers and they're stuffed. And then here's the mushrooms, which my parents and grandma preferred it over the bell peppers, but they're both good. So yeah, my project is finally over.
It's amazing.
My dad said it's amazing. But I learned a lot and it was a lot of fun and I definitely want to continue learning from my parents and my grandparents about Egyptian food and also researching it constantly because I get like ideas from it and this was like a simple idea. Like this was not like crazy, but like it took 4 hours of work, more than 4 hours. So yeah, I'm done, so I will see you in class. Bye!